Under hot, sunny skies on the streets of Baku, Sergio Perez has claimed the first sprint race win of the year. He has taken the honours in that one, beating Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen, who also completed the podium. Lots to get stuck into in an eventful sprint race. Let's get into it, shall we? Down here in the paddock. Welcome to the Prix Sprint Show. Will Buxton alongside me, the media pen bustling with drivers reacting to and debriefing their race after that one. And it was an eventful opening few laps, and it just seemed to settle a little bit, Will.
It wasn't a classic, was it?
It wasn't one technically to write home about, but...
It's an interesting one, you know. Normally you get a safety car around here, it shakes up the order a little bit, everybody, gets a little bit sketchy on the restarts, but everybody after that initial start actually quite calm, and I think that has a lot to do with how different this sprint weekend is. Everybody's still trying to find their feet with it and recognizing the importance, of course, of making it to the end and getting as much data as they can, because this was ostensibly, a long-run practice for a lot of the drivers. But yeah, I thought the opening to it was brilliant, and a little bit of afters as well in Parc Ferme.
A little bit of afters in Parc Ferme as well. We did hear some choice language from Max Verstappen. He let us know exactly what he thought about George Russell's moves on him, but that battle was something, wasn't it?
It was great. It's a bit rich, isn't it? Sort of, you know, Max Verstappen saying a driver's taking some unnecessary risks. Max has made a career out of putting in gutsy moves, getting his elbows out, you know, getting down and dirty, running wheel to wheel with people. He's fought drivers hard his entire career, but he doesn't like being raced hard himself, particularly not when he's fighting for a championship, and I think that really showed today. He's lost a couple of points to Sergio Perez. He's lost a couple of positions here, going too wide through there, and obviously running into the side of him. And we only really saw when he got into Parc Ferme just how big that gash was all the way down the side pod. Of course, at this point, he'd fallen down to fourth place in that battle with George Russell, but he's thinking about the championship, and he knows that every single one of these moments and every battle that he runs into with the driver, if they run him hard, you know, he complained about Lewis in Australia, complaining about Max here. He's thinking about the championship. He's thinking about every position lost, every point potentially lost. He's thinking long game. And that's why he's getting frustrated. And perhaps now he's seeing the other side of the coin of the way that he perhaps used to drive, and that, you know, elbows out mentality that he used to have, and how other drivers might have judged some of his moves.
I wonder exactly how much pace he might have lost, actually, whether he could have come closer to Charles Leclerc with that enormous hole in the side pod.
I went to see the guys at Red Bull actually just after the sprint, and I said, how much time do you think you've lost? Because that's just a huge hole in the side pod. They said, honestly, we don't know. We're running the numbers now, but it was substantial.
It really was. He was not the only driver to have some damage on the car today, and indeed the early safety car that was brought out was because of Yuki Tsunoda. We just saw a solitary tyre on the track, and the question was, well, who on earth does that belong to? And it was Yuki Tsunoda. The guys in the studio now are going to look into this one for us.
It was like a game of Cluedo, wasn't it? Working out what had gone on with Yuki Tsunoda. So the main incident he had is a weird one. He's across the racetrack in turn 13. It's a flat-out drive-through section of the circuit and appears to just understeer clean off into the wall. We saw the damage to that right rear tyre, but there was really no reason that we could see why the car should have behaved like that, why he would apply steering lock and the car just wouldn't turn, until we saw this, Sam.
Yeah, this is something that jumped out to me, because we saw these replays playing out, and then I just looked at the front end of Yuki Tsunoda's car and saw his left front wing was missing, but he hit the wall with the right-hand side of the car. So we took a little bit of a look back earlier in the lap of what happened to Yuki Tsunoda, and we discovered this. Alex, this was a little bit rude, I think.
Yeah, Nick De Vries and Yuki Tsunoda, teammates side by side, down into turn 3, and you can see Nick just takes the line through the exit of turn 3, and this is the moment where Yuki's front wing on the left-hand side is damaged and answers our Sherlock Holmes moment of what actually happened to Yuki Tsunoda and why he found himself in the wall. But the woes were not all over there, were they?
Well, they absolutely weren't. Losing that front wing, loss of downforce, that's why he understeered into the wall. Well, he came in for a little bit of repair from AlphaTauri, who bolted a new wheel onto the car and sent Yuki back out onto track. And we saw that the rear wheels weren't entirely fully aligned on the back of the car, and that iconic shot of it crabbing along the circuit. Well, the FIA are going to take a look at that, and they'll be looking at it in race control right now, because the technical regulations and the sporting regulations are very, very clear. You have to have your car released from the pits in a safe condition at all times. That means if you come out with a loose wheel, you might get in a bit of trouble. We've seen that a few times, I think, for Fernando Alonso last season. The mirrors falling off the car, you've got to have your car in a safe condition. Well, Yuki Tsunoda apparently may have been released from the pits in an unsafe condition. And Alex, if you see a car crabbing along the circuit the second it leaves the pit lane, it's a little bit of an indication it might not all be quite right.
Yeah, tricky for AlphaTauri, because obviously it was pretty clear that they'd lost that rear right tyre, that they'd lost a bit of front wing. They've changed the tyres and they've sent it. What they've missed is the fact that there's clear geometry damage on that right rear. We've not heard anything immediately after the race, apart from the fact it will be looked at, but there could be implications here for the Grand Prix, Sam, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So if the FIA do feel that they've made an unsafe release, there will probably be a penalty for Yuki Tsunoda, probably a financial penalty for AlphaTauri, but they may argue that they weren't aware of the damage. So that's what is going to be discussed in race control now. But what's being discussed in the paddock? Well, Will Buxton has all of that for you right now.
Will Buxton, do you have it?
Well.
No, I don't think he does. Yuki Tsunoda then, of course, so much promise on Friday in qualifying with a brilliant Q3 performance, but today has just been not his day at all. A nightmare for Yuki today with shootout, his lap impeded by the red flag that came out, and then the crash in the sprint race means that we are not seeing the true potential of that AlphaTauri car. Let's hear from Yuki now.
Yuki, sorry to see when the race is still going on. What happened to the car?
Well, I just had a contact with some driver, and I lost my front wing, and yeah, he just didn't leave me any space, and yeah, the front wing got damaged, which I really didn't really recognize it, and went flat out, which usually I do. I mean, even I released a little bit throttle, but the steering didn't, control at all, couldn't control at all, and slightly went to the wall. But yeah, just really frustrated because the guy I got forces just yeah, it's but anyway, yeah, so that's finished.
It kind of feels like that car's got so much potential around here, so it must be doubly frustrating.
Yeah, really frustrated. Yeah, just really frustrated because yeah, especially spring qualifying couldn't maximize this opportunity, which is really frustration for us. Yeah, so yeah, it's really frustrating. Yeah.
But you've got a solid top 10 start on the grid tomorrow. You can still rescue this weekend, can't you?
Yeah, definitely. I will definitely reset my mindset for tomorrow, and yeah, try to score points, obviously.
A shame then for Yuki Tsunoda. P8, he will start tomorrow. As Lawrence said, chance for him to rescue something from this weekend, fresh from his first point of the season in Australia last time out.
It's funny, I kind of see the sprint as an opportunity for people to rescue something after the disappointment of qualifying. Yuki has the bulk of the job to do tomorrow. That's where the major points are scored. He was never going to score points today, starting as low as he did, and you can sense his frustration, but I love how punchy he is, because he can sense that here on this track, in this car, which hasn't been competitive really for the rest of the season, they've got a chance, and they've got a car that's going well here. That's why he's annoyed, because he wanted that time on track to figure out where that car was so he can put it straight on the track tomorrow and absolutely gun it, and he never got that opportunity today. So yeah, he will be going into the Grand Prix a little bit blind. But I love that he's frustrated. I love that he's annoyed, because we know that car is not the pick of the bunch. So to have him be disappointed with everything, I think shows how far they've come this weekend and just what tomorrow might hold in store for them.
A bit of fight coming
Yeah,
out of Yuki
yeah,
Tsunoda.
I love
We
it, love it.
The restart was not without minor incidents. We saw Sainz and Alonso tussling, Hamilton in the mix as well. It was a bit spicy at one point.
Yeah, it was. You know, Carlos has not really been terribly happy in the car all the way through this weekend. Obviously got pipped by George Russell in sprint shootout this morning, but then on that restart, some great moves, some wonderful battles. Carlos making his way through, Lewis trying to fight back, and Fernando, wily fox, just making his way through as well, following his compatriot through with some lovely moves, great stuff. Lewis in the end, just couldn't hold them back. So it was, I thought it was a good, fun restart.
It was. We just had a fan duck into shot and look absolutely horrified at what he's done, and he's now walking off very red-faced.
He's been loving it all weekend. He's been absolutely beaming up and down the paddock, getting everyone's autograph all weekend. So he's quite sprightly and ducking and weaving and moving in and out, getting everyone's autograph. It's great.
He looks absolutely mortified, bless him.
He must
We'll get him in.
Get him back on the show. He's moving as fast as the cars.
We'll get him in perhaps, but I think one man we would like to speak to is walking in right
Absolutely.
now. And that is Lance Stroll. Come on in, Lance. Talk me through that one then. How was it all feeling out there? How was DRS as well? That issue seems fixed.
It was working. I don't want to say it was fixed because there's still, I don't know, 50 laps or something tomorrow, whatever it is. But yeah, it was working for the first time this weekend, which was nice.
Great move on Alex for that final point. Did you feel that the car was quite racy today? Do you think that's given you some confidence for the Grand Prix tomorrow?
Yeah, it felt good. I think we were much more competitive in the race today than we were in qualifying this morning and in qualifying yesterday. Yeah. So just looking at the competitors around us, we were catching Hamilton to the end of the race, and then I saw Fernando up the road look pretty close to the Ferrari. And we were, much slower than them in qualifying, so I think that was good. I
know you guys were worried coming into this weekend because that straight line speed's been, you haven't had many issues this year. The car's so good, but one of the sort of the less strong parts of it, has that new wing helped you out, or are you a little bit further back than you wanted to be?
Yeah, no, it definitely helped us out a lot. We're much quicker on the straights, but we're low on downforce, so not as competitive as in the corners, but it's a trade-off. And around here, I think in the race, it's nice to be quick on the straights.
Lance, how are you enjoying this format? When I spoke to you earlier on after the shootout, you didn't seem to know what time of day it was, or when indeed we'd had the shootout, whether it was morning or afternoon. Everything's a little bit offset, isn't it? How intense is this proving to be?
Yeah, it is. I just get in the car when they tell me to get in the car and do what they tell me to do. So, no, it's been really exciting. Jokes aside, I think it's actually very, entertaining for everyone, the fans, and and exciting for the drivers. Like every time you're getting in the car, there's something to kind of fight for, and you're pushing from lap 1 of FP1 to try and figure out the car, and then you're going straight into qualifying, and then again to qualifying, and there's definitely adrenaline's running high every time you're getting in the car, and I think there's something cool about it. But in an ideal world, I would actually like to see the regular format kind of start going into 2-day weekends. I think that would be cool, like FP1 straight into quali, then race. Because I think there is something exciting about, minimum practice, like, minimum time to set up the car, and it keeps everyone on their toes and puts pressure on the teams and drivers to make the right decisions in a short period of time. Whereas like, normally we have a whole Friday and then FP3, which I think gives us a lot of time, and I think there's something fun about not being 100% sure. Yeah, and then over 24 races a year, it's almost like a month of holiday when you think about it. We can miss all those Thursdays.
Yeah. You've thought this through.
Yeah, for sure. Work on your tan a little more.
Lance, final one from me. What was it like this morning? Obviously, normally you come to track, as you say, and you get into the car and it's practice and you get your long runs in. Today it was straight in, 12:30, bam, straight into quali. Every lap matters.
Yeah, for sure. I was straight into the cold shower this morning, couple shots of espresso, and into qualifying. It was, full on. But again, I think it was exciting. It's been like, it feels like we've been here for like a week. Just with the amount of kind of work and adrenaline and excitement that's gone into this new format, it's definitely cool. But I don't think it's like the future of Formula One in terms of like every race being like this. I think there is something nice about practice, qualifying, race. Maybe that can be compressed a little bit.
Love it.
Good to hear your
Thanks.
thoughts. Clearly loving this format. That's a morning routine To take note of as well. Cold shower, straight in, bam, espresso. Thank you very much, Lance. Thank you.
You can tell the adrenaline's flowing.
I
That is
know.
the chattiest Lance
That is the
we've seen all
chattiest
year.
Lance I've ever seen, I'm going to say.
He's loving it.
He's
Oh.
absolutely loving it.
And he's signing all the autographs.
Yeah, he
I'm
is.
loving it.
I'm going to bring in our newest ambassador, our newest F1 ambassador. Tom Christensen is coming in.
Mr. Le
Take
Mans.
centre spot. Yeah, Mr. Le Mans. Tom, welcome along.
Thank you very much, Laura.
Brilliant to have you here with us. What did you make of that one then?
I mean, it has been, I think it was very well said by Lance. It has been a very energetic couple of days, hasn't it? I mean, qualifying yesterday with a lot of drama, intensity, and the same in the sprint shootout we saw this morning. The sprint race itself, I mean, on the grid, I had expected to see a few more soft tires, but after 6-7 laps, I realized why. That would have been the wrong choice. But nevertheless, the sprint format would have been nice to see a little bit more change of tire strategy too. But a brilliant performance. The drivers really were performing well in the sprint race, not the mistakes we saw in the practice and qualifying, in the qualifying session.
Max Verstappen, George Russell.
Yeah, was
Hard racing, fair racing. What was it from your perspective?
In a way, it reminded me a little bit of Max 2 years ago when he was challenging Lewis Hamilton a little bit. So what he was complaining over the radio, it was a little bit like the champion is being challenged in some way. And of course he came off worse, but maybe he also hang on to one of them a little bit too much. But that's again, for me, I think it's this what we call 50-60. I will say yes, definitely he took more risks being George Russell. But there again, that's racing, isn't it? And of course, the fine line was maybe just overstepped. But was it worth the penalty? Was it worth looking at? I really doubt it.
Do you like drivers getting on the radio and complaining about those kind of things? Because me personally, I hate it in football when players go to the referee and try and get a card shown to a player. And I love racing. I like elbows out, hard racing. And I don't know, what about you?
I agree, 100%. I mean, they are not only talking to the teams, they are talking to the broadcast. They are aware of that these days, so definitely. And you don't want too much complaints. And what it was a little bit counter-objective to this is that Max would not have complained of that 2 years ago.
No, because he'd be the one putting the moves.
Absolutely.
And George took it to Max last race weekend out in Australia as well. He got him off the start.
Yeah.
They're enjoying those battles out on track. Max saying on the radio, well, I can do this clean. And I think in Parc Ferme as well, he said, well, if that's how we're going to do it, it's almost beginning to build up some kind of grudge match between the two of them in the heat of the moment, of course. I'm sure when the dust settles, perhaps not. But it's exciting.
I don't know if the dust ever does settle with Max. I mean, you look at him and Checo at the end of the year still arguing about Monaco. He hangs
last year.
Yeah, he hangs on to things. He doesn't forget in a hurry.
I mean, he's on course to be the champion this year. So far, Red Bull looking relatively...
We're only 4 races in,
I know, but Red Bull looking relatively unbeatable. And can I just talk about the Ferrari race pace as well? You mentioned expecting to see more soft tyres and then not seeing them and understanding why after 6 or 7 laps. It seemed that Ferrari tyre deg is again an issue. Leclerc's pace just dropped off like a stone towards the last few laps from Verstappen. Or was that a case of managing the effort, knowing the Grand Prix is tomorrow?
I think they did well. And just talking to actually Fred Vasseur, he was very happy. He was upbeat about how they finished the race and believing they are onto something stronger. And to see a happy Fred Vasseur is not what you do very often. So in that sense, surely Charles is in love. I think you have talked about that with this circuit.
Yeah.
He's extraordinary on this track. Well spotted about the pace, but I believe for tomorrow he's not on to a victory as Max's car was a bit damaged, but Checo clearly dominated the sprint race. But for Charles and Ferrari to be on the podium tomorrow, that's already a victory for them with a disastrous start of the season they've had.
Absolutely agree with you. Thank you very much indeed, Tom, for joining us. Brilliant to have you along for the ride this season. Thanks to Tom Christensen, Mr. Le Mans.
Thanks, Nick.
We will replace Tom, irreplaceable of course, but we will bring in Alex Albon. What a battle.
Hello.
P9 it is.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank
a great
you.
fight with Lance Stroll. Just talk me through that fight you had and I guess how much you'd have wanted that point as well.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't qualify where they should have been with their DRS issue. They got back past in the race. I mean, I feel like every session we've done this weekend, we've been on it. I felt really good on the track, just, you know, everything clicking in. Of course, because we've had so little time to actually drive, it's been advantageous to be able to be on the pace straight away. I'm not a big fan of the sprint race, if I'm truthful. You know, there's 4 positions, or 8 positions available. We've got 4 top teams now. That's 8 cars, and that's the points. That's truthfully that's how it is. You know, we do hope for a bit of carnage to get through, but I don't see how these 4 top 8 cars are going to fall out of the sprint race points.
Would you be a fan of it if there was...
I didn't finish P9, yes.
Yes, no, but if there was a wider spread of points?
Yes, but then how would you do it? Because yes, I would, but then
Everyone
are you scoring the same amount of points?
Let's say everyone scores points.
0.1 point, 0.2
20 for the win, then 19, 18, 7, all the way down.
Perfect.
Done. There we go, we fixed it.
And then bonus points for Q3s and yeah.
Brilliant.
And bonus points for Williams, and then
yes. So
then they
historic
multiply.
points.
They multiply. Actually, we shouldn't multiply. Yes.
It's going to get confusing.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I don't want to be down, but is it frustrating coming so close to points when I know the expectations were low for this season, and then we've got into the year, the car's been great, you've been great, the potential's been there, but to have such a meager return in terms of points for so much potential that's been shown.
It is. I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't frustrated when I crossed the line. It feels like we've fallen out the points or just been in the points, if it's car error or even human error. We've been on the fringes today. Yeah, you know, well, I mean, I consider it points because I normally race for top 10. But it's good signs. We haven't got our rewards, and I think on my side, it also feels like some of these circuits early on in the year have suited our car a bit more, and you know, we're going to go into this middle stretch where it doesn't suit too much. That's not to say, you know, me being pessimistic. It's just that this is the time. This is the time to score points, and you know, teams are bringing upgrades now. McLaren have, Alpine have. We are yet to, and we want to get it early. You know, at least that's my feeling. So we'll keep on pushing. We've still got tomorrow. We've got a good car. There are P9 and P10 available, and of course Baku does throw its surprises. So let's see.
There are points up for grabs tomorrow as well, Alex. I know you're starting a little bit further down that grid. How will you advance up into those point-scoring opportunities?
Yeah, so you know, I think we're starting P12 now that Esteban has his pit lane start. We're already, you know, more or less there. We've got to do a bit of work tonight. I do think I had a bit of deg in that race, and we just need to see if I can try and fix it with a bit of driving, or if we can play around a little bit with the front wing. Or the tools on the steering wheel. So that's the game plan. I do think it's not going to be easy because the McLarens have been quick this weekend. I don't think they've really shown their true pace yet. So, yeah.
Great stuff.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alex.
Appreciate it, Alex.
Well done, and hard luck all at the same time. P9, he counts it as points. Unfortunately, it won't count as real, actual points. Ferrari will,
yes.
A P2 for Charles Leclerc, and a P5, yes, for Carlos Sainz, very much where he started, where he finished, and he has struggled this weekend. We did see that the pace for Charles Leclerc drop off. It looked to be tyre egg, didn't it?
Well, it's interesting from what Tom was saying after speaking to Fred that he believes they were just kind of, you know, backing out last few laps, just hold off. The threat from Max wasn't really there. He couldn't get close. I think in the dirty air a little bit, the disruption and that whopping great hole in the side pod. And when Charles knew that, you know, he wasn't going to catch Checo at the end, when Checo put his foot down a little bit and Charles started to fall back. But it's a result. It's a podium finish for a Ferrari, which had not looked like a possibility in certain parts of this, you know, early stage of the season. So it's a start of a step back towards where we expected them to be. It's a massively important step back towards where we expected them to be. Yes, Charles goes well on this circuit. Yes, it's a bit of an outlier in terms of the makeup of the track. But overall, to have them back up there, to have them not completely drop off the pace and fall back behind Max and the Mercedes and, you know, be struggling for top 5, top 6, it's a really positive day, and I think a really positive sign for tomorrow as well.
It really is, and the fact that we're even mentioning the race pace and getting closer to Red Bull is a positive step forward for Ferrari. Charles Leclerc scoring more points today than he has for the rest of the season, so that is something for Ferrari. Let's hear now, though, from Carlos Sainz, P5.
Go.
Hey Carlos, I know it's been a difficult weekend up until this point. What was the car like out in the sprint?
It's been tricky, very tricky, but at this point, honestly, without being able to change anything in the car and just feeling the way I feel, is more of a bit of a damage limitation weekend, trying to bring the points home for myself, for the team, and try and see what has happened a bit later when we have more time to analyse.
I was going to say, at least you kind of got a sustained run, didn't you, on this compound, a bit of learning for tomorrow, and I know damage limitation, but it looks like a lot of people are stepping with deck out there. There could be opportunities tomorrow.
Yeah, higher deck, higher rear degradation than expected. I think today we all struggle a bit with that, so tomorrow is going to be a tricky one. At least we learned that, and we will try and prepare for tomorrow.
Okay, so thanks.
Thank you.
Hey Charles, more points than you've scored all season in one race. I know it wasn't the win, but how satisfying is it to just finally get a result of sorts?
Well, it's good to finish a race without any problems. On the other hand, second place is a bit disappointing. I wanted to go for the win, but at the same time, I think, knew that it was going to be extremely difficult considering the pace of the Red Bull, and they've shown it again. So we'll see what's possible tomorrow. Second was the best we could do today, and now we just need to work and try really to do a step as quickly as possible in the race, because that's where we are lacking and that's where we are scoring points.
The deg looked tough for a lot of people out there. Do you think it is going to be a little bit more difficult with the longer race tomorrow to hold off both of the Red Bulls?
It's going to be tricky for sure. I don't think there was much today in the car, so yeah. But let's see. Every races are different, and let's see what I can do.
Okay, so good luck.
Great to hear there from Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc as well, P2 today. And as Tom and Will have said aptly, that's a great result for Ferrari, absolutely. The overtake, though, Perez on Leclerc, that Red Bull straight line speed once again, DRS open, whoom, gone.
Yeah, it's a rocket ship, isn't it? It's almost like a double, triple DRS, because the car is so efficient anyway. It's got such great straight line speed anyway that when you flip that switch and open that rear wing, it's like a hyperdrive. It just goes. What I found interesting, though, after that, was that Charles was able to keep pace with Checo. Yes, he's been the man to beat around this track, but I think in race conditions, we all expected Checo to then run away and hide. But Charles stuck with him for a number of laps and stayed within DRS range as well, and was able to use it to keep himself, in hunting distance. I thought for a moment he was actually going to be able to have a run on him. It didn't play off like that. He did end up falling back. But it's positive. I can't overstate how positive it is that he didn't just fall away, that he stayed with him in the fight and was having a little crack, having a little look. Didn't manage to put a move on, but he didn't just suddenly disappear out of the fight. And for Tifosi around the world, that's going to be a real positive.
He was gaining back a bit of time as well, just as Sergio Perez was on the team radio talking about his own tyres and tyre deg. And we can't overstate that there is such limited data from this weekend already, and such differing weather conditions as well, that we don't know how these tyres are going to react. We now know what they'll do over 100k, perhaps. We've got a full Grand Prix race distance to get stuck into tomorrow. It's going to be exciting, isn't it?
It's going to be great. And they still don't have as much knowledge as they'd like to have. And the temperature's going to shift again tomorrow. The wind, as we understand it, is going to pick up and be swirling around and changing direction as well. So there's so much to take into consideration. And look, those softs didn't last long today, and that was with only enough fuel for 100 kilometers. You're talking about a much heavier car tomorrow, a much different proposition. They'll learn today what those mediums can do, but again, only on a very limited amount of fuel compared to what they'll be running tomorrow. So it's still a step into the unknown. There's still a lot to figure out overnight. Everyone's going to be crunching the numbers. The strategy teams will be crunching the numbers and seeing what they think it's going to be, but it's all a guesstimation.
We know Sergio Perez can manage his tyres very well. He's done so over so many races, and it was a brilliantly well-handled, managed race from him today to take that win. His teammate was P3. Let's hear from both of them now.
Hey Max, saw you surveying the damage on your car and obviously pretty frustrated. What are your kind of thoughts now? You've had a few moments to think about how it went down with George.
Just a bit unfortunate, of course, with the first lap. I mean, my start wasn't amazing, but yeah, we're still in P3 going into turn 2. I thought I left enough space on the inside, otherwise, of course, the car is in the wall. And then suddenly I just get tapped just on the moment where you want to go on throttle. And then at the time, of course, I didn't know how much damage I had, but then I jumped out of the car and I saw the side pod had a hole in it, which is I think, quite a critical area of the car. So yeah, it's not ideal, but I think at the end of the day, yeah, we still managed to be in P3, which I think was fine.
I couldn't really hear what you were saying to George. What did you say? Because he was saying that it was his corner because he had the apex.
Yeah, he's very good in explaining and create excuses. I mean, everyone had cold tires. And I think I had every right to be on the outside. I also didn't really risk anything too much. I gave him enough space, because I knew we were going side by side. But you need two guys to work together, to make the corner. Clearly, he didn't.
Thanks for explaining.
Right.
Thanks. Checo, congratulations. Great pace out there, great performance. You must be delighted.
Yeah, I'm really happy, very pleased for the whole team. They've done a tremendous job. It's not easy, this format. It puts a lot of pressure on drivers, mechanics, engineers. So to be able to come away with the maximum points, it's a good start, but we cannot forget that tomorrow is the day that really matters.
But I guess today's performance shows that you can go and do this again tomorrow in a much longer Grand Prix.
Well, like I say, this is the beauty of our sport. Every single day it's a new challenge. So we have to go out there and make sure we are able to deliver.
Great stuff. Thank you.
Great race for Sergio Perez, and all importantly, a couple of points over Max Verstappen in the hunt for the title for this year. Max Verstappen not quite letting it go just yet. This George Russell tussle could just rumble on.
George Russell tussle.
Did you like that?
I like that.
It could just rumble on into tomorrow's race.
Absolutely. Look, I take nothing away from Max. I think he's a phenomenal racing driver, a worthy two-time world champion. I love the way he races. I love the fact that he's an aggressive, elbows out, gutsy driver. I've always loved that about the way he races. But if he's going to dish it out, he's got to be able to take it as well. But I take nothing away. I love Max as a racer. But yeah, he's got to be able to take what he dishes out.
Okay, very good stuff. Thank you very, very much indeed, Will. We're going to look ahead to tomorrow. We're going to look at the schedule in just a moment. It's going to be an exciting one, isn't it? Perez, Verstappen, Leclerc, all to play for.
Yeah, look, we know that Ferrari has got legs on it, but we know that the Red Bull is going to be so difficult to hold back. If Max hadn't had that hole in his side pod today, I think it would have been a very different proposal, very different equation of how that race ultimately panned out. I'm really excited to do, we spoke to him earlier, I'm excited to see what Alex Albon can do in that Williams, maybe make his way up into the points. I'm excited to see what that upgraded McLaren can do in race trim. I'm hopeful that Alpine might be able to salvage something from this hideous monstrosity of a weekend. And I can't wait to see what Yuki does.
Yes.
I'm really excited for all of that. And Mercedes, Lewis is starting in the top 5. George is starting out of the points. Excited to see what they can do tomorrow as well. So, look, I love Grand Prix racing. I'm just excited for the Sunday.
We're both rooting for Alpine because we've put Pierre Gasly in our fantasy team.
I've doubled up on Pierre for the weekend.
The comeback is on for Pierre Gasly and Alpine, and Esteban Ocon as well, who will be starting in the pit lane, of course, tomorrow. And we hope to see Logan Sargent taking part in tomorrow's Grand Prix after the big shunt earlier on. He's okay, car not so. Hopefully it will be by the time the race rolls in tomorrow to town here in Baku. Let's take a look at the schedule for race day, Sunday Grand Prix here in Azerbaijan. And it's all relatively simple after what has been a jam-packed, hectic weekend so far. 2 p.m, you can join Will and me and Lawrence, I'd imagine he might be in there as well.
Possibly.
2 p.m. And then, of course, the all-important Azerbaijan Grand Prix will kick off at 3 p.m. Charles Leclerc is on pole. Will be all over the post-race show. That's straight after the podium. Can't wait to see how this is going to play out. Here is the grid. Charles Leclerc is on pole, Max Verstappen alongside him on the front row. Sergio Perez, winner today of the sprint race, and Carlos Sainz make up the second row. Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso on the third row. Oh, that's a bit spicy, isn't it? Looking forward to that one. We then have Lando Norris, Yuki Tsunoda, as we say, hoping to recover his weekend. Lance Stroll and Oscar Piastri 9th and 10th, George Russell P11. Ocon, of course, with that pit lane start. So that shifts everybody else up. We then see Alexander Albon up there. Bottas, Sargent will be P15 if we see his car out on that grid. Zhou, Hulkenberg, Magnussen, Gasly, De Vries, Ocon in the pit lane. Much at stake, much to play for in this, the first race after our spring break. After a few weeks away, it's going to be a good one, Will.
Excited.
The grid is set, the stage is set, the sun is beginning to dip here in Baku, and we will look forward to race day Sunday. Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be a good one. The media pen looks a little bit quieter now behind us. The paddock still bustling, though. A win here today for Sergio Perez in the sprint race. Charles Leclerc, P2, as much a victory of itself. Max Verstappen, P3. How will that podium look tomorrow? Let's find out. We'll see you then.